director of the CIA. He's irresponsible. He's accused his political opponents of treason, a death penalty offense, without offering any evidence at all. But above all, Brennan is vocal. For the past year, he has shouted his views on every possible political topic, as is his right. Well, giving his opinion is literally his job now, actually. He's a cable news pundit. Yesterday, the Trump administration finally revoked his security clearance. Now, why was John Brennan able to keep his top-secret clearance after leaving government in the first place? Do other MSNBC contributors have security clearances? If so, what national interest is served by that? And how did somebody so obviously limited intellectually get to be CIA director in the first place? Those are all valid questions. No one on the left even bothered to try to explain any of those things. Instead, they started yelling about how Brennan's rights were being violated.
He knows the Russian collusion angle, and that's what Trump is trying to silence.
Nixonian-type practices of trying to silence anyone who's willing to criticize this president.
The larger implication here is the jeopardy to our First Amendment rights, and by extension, others.
Hear that? The First Amendment. Because you really don't have freedom of speech unless you also have a top-secret government security clearance. Brennan, of course, agreed with that. He wrote a piece claiming that Trump revoked his clearance, quote, to try to silence anyone who would dare challenge him. Where was Brennan's essay about being silenced published? Well, in the New York Times, a newspaper with 3 million subscribers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it looks like to be muzzled. Senator Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, who not only is a fake war hero, but also a graduate of Yale Law School, argued that Brennan somehow has a constitutional right to a security clearance. And notice how Blumenthal keeps a straight face as he says this. Watch.
An ear trip.
It is not only an abuse of power, it is illegal. When the founders of our great nation decided on the First Amendment, it was because the King of England would retaliate against his critics. He has the authority to do a lot of things, but not in a way that violates the law.
Thanks for the lesson on the law, Senator. So here's the takeaway. John Brennan has a constitutional right to a federal security clearance, though he does not work for the federal government. You do not have that right. Neither do I, or anyone you know. Only John Brennan has that right because he resides in a special class of elites that you are obligated to obey. And by the way, if you disagree with any of that, you are a monster. You are on the side of bloodthirsty dictators like Stalin and Pol Pot. Watch as more dumb people talk.
What we're seeing today is this is what dictators do. This is a dictatorial exercise of power that should frighten.
It's a clear abuse of power, and it's a mark of an authoritarian dictator.
This is a striking move towards authoritarianism. You know, this is what dictators do. They shut down the press, they shut down dissent, they jail their opponents.
So he's a dictator. Let that settle in for a minute. If Trump is a dictator, he may be the single most incompetent dictator in world history. For example, he lets all these morons go on cable television and accuse him of crimes, but doesn't do anything about it.
So, Senator Blumenthal, go for it.
I like that idea, and it's probably going to come true. But the irony, again, there are so many layers of it, but that these are the exact same people who are telling us that we don't have a right to know what our government is doing. We don't have a right to know the pretext under which Carter Page was spied upon by the Obama administration. And we're, by the way, quislings if we ask too many questions. But somehow John Brennan has a right to reclassified information. I mean, how could you make that argument without turning red with shame by dummies?
It's, in actual fact, if you read John Brennan's column in the New York Times, it's actually faintly creepy because at one point, he actually says at one point, I want to make sure I get this right, that a variety of politicians, political parties, media outlets, think tanks, and influencers, that means you, Tucker, you're an influencer, you're readily manipulated wittingly and unwittingly by Russian intelligence. So you, Tucker,
You don't even know you're being manipulated by Russian intelligence. But the fact that you're objecting to John Brennan telling you you're being manipulated by Russian intelligence is the clearest proof that you're being manipulated by Russian intelligence. This is all this guy's got. And this is why, if he wants to be this idiotic in public, if he wants to be just another obscure MSNBC pundit, he should do it without a security clearance. And of the intelligence security apparatus, actually you lose your security clearance in not only in dictatorships, in dictatorships, in almost all other countries, this idea of ex officio security clearance, it's bad enough. You know, one of the ridiculous things about this country is because you don't have viscounts and dukes. Somebody who was a senator from 1972 to 1978 gets called senator until the day he dies. And now we're saying that aside from that, he should also have a security clearance until the day he dies. Ex officio security clearances are a stupid idea, and they should be abolished across the board.
In real dictatorships, former intel heads wind up like Beria. So, I mean, it's all so stupid. Mark, thank you. Great to see you, as always. Ethan Merriman is a radio show host. Thank you. In California, Ethan joins us tonight. So, Ethan, I didn't go to Yale Law School, couldn't get in. But where in the Constitution does it say that former spies are required to keep their security clearances?
The issue here, Tucker, is if the government wants to impede on your ability to express yourself, which we have two separate issues happening here. We have the attacks on the free press that are happening, the enemy of the people, and then separately, if I revoke your security clearance because I don't like what you're saying, which is what's going on right now, that is an attempt to silence you in your criticism of me. If
well, how is it? Well, hold on. But how is it? Hold on. Well, let's start to first principles here. What national interest is served by giving MSNBC contributors top secret security clearances? How does that help?
So for the last,
all of this is down to the country.
At least 6 administrations, maybe it's 5, have retained those security clearances after they've left office, because the current sitting CIA director, for example, may want to refer to the previous CIA director for information about an operation, some inside scoop on why they were doing something or what they were doing. And instead of having to go through a security clearance every single time that they wanted to have a conversation about it, you kept the security clearance in place.
I understand how the system, the system is worked, but we're not talking about the system, we're talking about John Brennan. So how does America benefit by John Brennan having a security clearance? I'm completely confused.
If the sitting CIA director wants to confer with him about, for example, hey, what led you to investigate the Russians that were visiting the RNC or going to Trump Tower? What was behind your thinking on that? What was the information that led you to hand that over to somebody else?
He doesn't need a security clearance
to have that. Where were you on this?
He doesn't, hold on, whoa, hold on. You don't need John Brennan to have a security clearance. No, that's not true. John Brennan does not need a security clearance in order to answer straightforward questions from someone in government. People are subpoenaed all the time. People speak voluntarily all the time to government without security clearances. So I mean, the truth is, this is insane. There's no scenario that you could create where we need to give John Brennan a security clearance. That's a privilege that he has. It's tradition that we have. It may or may not be justifiable, but it's not his right. I mean, that's insane. He's an unelected bureaucrat who now works as a contributor on a cable news channel. Just like you, just like me. We don't deserve security clearances, do we?
No, we don't deserve it. And what's interesting, though, again, is there are two separate issues that are coming together here. One are the daily attacks on the press. We are the enemy of the people, except for you and some others here, but most of the press is considered the enemy of the people. And now that Brennan is on one of the less favored networks, he's an enemy of the people, and therefore one of the ways to silence him is to very publicly revoke his security clearance. But how does that silence?
What do you mean? Why does he have it? And look, it's a measure of the depth of the corruption that he would have a security clearance in the first place. There's no scenario where the rest of us benefit from that. It's another stupid Washington tradition. I can tell you, having lived there all my life, there are many of them. And this is one, and it came to light because this show brought it to light, and it's totally indefensible. So rather than defend it, they're just like, oh, Richard Blumenthal says you have a constitutional right. It's illegal to take away his security clearance. How is that true? Exactly.
Well, actually, there's an argument for that. So in administrative law, at least, Tucker, to take away somebody's livelihood, so in this case, maybe his security clearance could be argued that is the source of his livelihood. I mean, why is he at MSNBC, for example? I mean, because he was
so that tells you right there.
Because he had security clearance.
Oh, I get it. So you're conceding that he's using
that,
this. Wait, hold on. Wait, what you're saying is that John Brennan is viewing top secret information and using that in his role as an MSNBC contributor. Well, what else are you saying?
I'm saying that
if that's like central to his livelihood. Well, no, John Brennan shouldn't be using top secret information to which he has special access in his role as a cable news pundit.